Notnerd Podcast, Episode 225, Behind the Virtual Background.
Welcome to the Notnerd Podcast. We are here to help you tech better. All kinds of tech news among other world news to cover today. Here with me, as always, Mr. Dave Baylor.
Well, hello there, friend. We were playing around with Zoom call backgrounds earlier, and it looks like I'm kind of in a grungy cafe right now with the brick wall. So,
and with
hello
your
to you.
flannel on and your toque for our Canadian listeners.
Yeah, and I'm very northwesty today.
Yes. Well, we are recording remotely once again. And I've realized I'm just out of my habits. I'm used to driving to the studio, getting mentally prepared for the show, and it took me a couple times to get the intro right, a little behind the curtain or behind the virtual background, as it may be today. But we are ready to talk tech. Follow up several episodes ago, and I kept forgetting because people kept bringing it up. I was trying to think of the TV show where he dropped off USB drives and they plugged them into a computer. It was not iRobot. It was Mr. Robot with Rami Malek.
Yes.
And everybody knew that except for my brain at that moment, but I wanted to make sure we got on the record with the correction there.
Yes.
Some more follow-up. There's some new products coming from one of our favorite companies, Wyze. They are releasing a scale, a smart scale, and a smart band. I took a look at these, and as I'm sure you did as well, Dave. What do you think?
Well, I feel like the scale is very close to the Eufy scale that I bought a couple weeks ago. And it's probably sourced from the same people. The Eufy is through Anchor, which doesn't make scales. I'm sure they're sourcing it from somebody. So I'm wondering if there's a scale manufacturer out there that's just kind of white labeling their products for these different companies so that they can integrate into their smart home devices family of products. What's great about Wyze is their marketing and their commercials. Did you watch the clips at all?
Yes, I did. They are very clever, very approachable brand.
Yes. Yeah, it's very funny. They always do something like some crazy 70s or 80s, just homely looking people doing weird stuff, and it's refreshing to see something like that for sure.
Yes.
But back to the technology. The scale looks very similar, as I said, to the Eufy scale that I purchased, that you stand on it, you launch the app, it communicates with your phone, tells you your weight, your body fat index, your bone density, I don't know how it calculates this stuff from just stepping on a scale.
Yes.
But it pretends to, at least, and gives you some feedback on your body metrics. And then the wrist thing, I was like, well, we don't need another wristband type thing. We've got Fitbit. There's 1,000 knockoffs. There's the Apple Watch and a bunch of Android ones. And so what's different about this smart band? Well, it integrates into your Wyze system, and it's got Amazon Alexa built in. And so you can do things like, I don't know, tell it to turn something on, tell it to turn something off, take a picture with the camera, do whatever. It's some clever integration stuff, and it's relatively inexpensive. So I can see just having something like this as a kind of a digital watch that does a little bit more. But it does remind me of some early iterations of the Fitbit wearables.
Yeah, and as with all of Wyze's products, one of the most important factors is pricing. The scale comes in at $19.99 plus shipping. You can pre-order it now, which is cheaper than both of us paid for our smart scales. And the band is $24.99 plus shipping, and it does have some smartwatch features there. So again, yes, if you're not looking to invest in an Apple Watch or a Fitbit, at $25 to get some of this functionality, even if you only wear it around the house, it could be very, very nice little gadget for you to have.
Yeah, if you're going to buy a Casio watch anyway, those cost $12 to $18. You might as well spend a little bit more and get this little cool gadget. And I might pick one up just for fun, just to test it out. And my son, who's a runner, he hasn't wanted to bite the bullet to get the really expensive Garmin GPS watches and stuff, and he tends to always lose whatever I give to him or buy for him. And so now he's sporting a really super cheap, like $10 Casio, so that he can keep time. But I'm thinking, a device like this might work well for him because I believe it has a little chronometer on there where he could do a stopwatch. So
yeah.
Who knows?
Tracks your steps, heart rate, and sleep.
Yeah.
And one of the advantages over, say, the Apple Watch is the Wise Band lasts 10 to 14 days on a single charge with normal use.
Right.
So they've checked those out. They might be a nice option if you're looking to get into either of those markets, especially if you have otherwise stuff, if you like Amazon's Alexa service, all of that good stuff. You check out wise.com for some very well priced smart home and now smart body gadgets.
They've got it all.
Yes. Well, we are using Zoom to see each other right now, and many people are using Zoom around the world as we are staying home. And some security researchers or reporters or journalists, I forget who the source was, found that Zoom's iOS app was using some tools from Facebook for login. When you go to a site or an app and it says you want to log in with Facebook, well, using that standard developers kit from Facebook provided Facebook with some generic information from you. They have since removed that. Zoom was providing Facebook with data that included when a user opened the app, plus their time zone, city, and device details. Zoom says that they didn't really realize the Facebook SDK was doing all of that. They're obviously under a lot of scrutiny and seeing a lot of growth right now. So they're like, okay, we're going to get rid of it. So
right.
I'm going to put this one under the shocker category. Streaming services, especially Disney Plus, see huge spike in subscriptions.
Yeah, this lock-in seems to be the best thing that could have happened to streaming video services because everybody's scrambling for something to watch, something for the kids to do, and it's like, hey, the big idiot box in the living room is a great alternative for everyone. So I fully expected Disney Plus to gain some new subscribers.
Yes, yeah. So this article that comes from Forbes, Disney is the big winner so far, and they're also one of the newest services. The number of Disney Plus signups more than tripled compared to the same period from the week prior. So that was Saturday, March 14th and Monday, March 16th.
Wow.
So yeah, 3 days, it was triple to the week prior. But Netflix, HBO Now, Showtime, all of those services are getting more. And then there's, of course, more streaming services coming because everybody's got to have their own, as we talk about often.
Mm-hmm.
Tied to that, there has been, it started over in Europe some, but it is expanding. Some of the streaming services, including YouTube, are, you could say, throttling. They're lowering the default quality of streams, which makes sense when you have that kind of growth. Services like YouTube to protect their systems and servers, they're downgrading the quality. I haven't really noticed a difference, but if they have to do it, they have to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can still go and make the resolutions higher.
Yes.
You just have to go in and manually do that. And so most people, honestly, cannot even tell. One of the things on like the Android phones that have Super Retina 1920 by 1080 HD screens, YouTube will default to 1920 by 1080. But oftentimes, if a 720p signal is coming across that same screen, you can't even tell because the screens are so small.
Yeah.
And the pixels are so small that the content looks the same. So I think for most users, it probably won't even matter.
Nope. And we need our internet to be working. This is actually something that somebody had shared with my wife, and then I saw it pop in the news as well. Facebook and Microsoft are partnering with WHO, the World Health Organization, for a coronavirus hackathon. So what they are doing, there's several other companies involved as well, but they are doing a hashtag build for COVID-19 hackathon, and they will start accepting they have at this time started accepting project submissions. So what this is developers or creative people, they can create projects focused on the themes of health and vulnerable populations, businesses, anything kind of related to this. And these companies are chipping in to help fund those projects. Now, for a software developer, you'd probably want to get in on this, get some money, and get the attention of these major tech companies that if you come up with a good project and they can provide some resources and you can come up with something great, it probably looks pretty good on your resume. But I do not have any ideas or the software development skills necessary to come up with any sort of project like this, but it is good that they are encouraging people to build for good.
Yeah, how everybody's kind of unifying together behind a common enemy, and we're seeing a lot of innovation in these spaces, and that could not be better.
Yes. Also, the maker space, they've started using 3D printers to help produce medical supplies like face guards and face masks and all of this stuff. Dave?
Yes. Well, I have been trying to convince my wife for about a year that we need to invest in a 3D printer. And you think, oh, well, no wonder they're so expensive. You can get a 3D printer, a good one, for around $300. Sometimes they're cheap, like $280. You can find them on sale. There's some more advanced versions of the same model that are around $350. But for $300, you can get a solid 3D printer. And I kind of want to get one. I don't know if there's immediate needs in this area, but I would gladly utilize it to make stuff like this if it would help. And then, of course, the side benefit of me getting the 3D printer where I could make like Baby Yoda figurines or something.
Well, you know? Yes.
I mean,
the important stuff.
Right.
The important stuff. Yeah, and obviously there's large companies that do a lot of manufacturing and production stuff that have much higher quality 3D printers. A friend of mine on Facebook, he has a 3D printer and he started making some with his, but this crowdsourcing of all of these things so that we can get especially medical personnel the supplies they need. So
I would like to see in the future hospitals having 3D printing technology so that they're able to create things that they need without having to spend. There was this story earlier about this valve that cost $11,000 for these ventilators. And innovative 3D printer enthusiasts were able to make the same part for like $1.
Yeah.
And there are things like that go on this planet that just drive me crazy. There's no reason we should be spending $11,000 for a plastic piece to help a machine save someone's life. So if there could be like this whole movement where all the hospitals could have some 3D printers, there's already open source platforms to host the files and the 3D models and all that stuff. Put a bunch of open source things out there and let hospitals just create the stuff that they need. Because depending on the pandemic at the moment, they're going to need different stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe it's ventilators this time. Maybe next time it's something else. Maybe it's these face shields or whatever that they're low on. But I would love to see the pharmaceutical, medical equipment manufacturers to have a real disruption in their service so that all of our healthcare costs can come down. I mean, a lot of the reason why this stuff is so expensive is because $11,000 valves.
Yeah.
I mean, give me a break. That stuff's ridiculous. More on this story. I think it was MIT or somebody made plans where they could create a ventilator for $100 out of various parts that you could source. And so they made plans, and they're making those available as well. So I love this type of stuff. Disrupting entrenched industries is kind of one of my, I was going to say pastime, not that I participate in it, but it's something I like to watch, like sports. Some people love to watch sports. I love to see industries be disrupted. So.
Well, yes, and this is in many, many areas a extreme version of forced disruption where people are getting very creative and helping things out. So hopefully,
necessity is the mother of invention.
This is true. And there's a lot of necessity right now. Speaking of necessity, archive.org, a site that we have mentioned very often, they have opened what they're calling the National Emergency Library, and they're making, I think the article states 1.4 million and growing. I heard it was getting close to 2 million book titles in their lending library, and what they're doing is much like Libby or the different library apps we've talked about, even for an audiobook or ebook, you have to wait in line because they're only licensed for so many copies. Well, they're kind of blowing that out of the water, saying, hey, students need access to books for education, and they are adding all of these things and eliminating the lines. Now, I did hear on another podcast that the book publishers and some of the authors aren't necessarily excited about this because it means a lot less money for them. But again, in a temporary situation, I could see that there would be an advantage to this. So archive.org, there's a lot of stuff there.
Man, everything. Games, movies, books, just anything that can be digital is there.
You know what else is a great resource? Dave's Pro Tip of the Week.
Yes, and this week, Nate, I thought we could talk about something very near and dear to my heart, and that is looking good on video.
Yes.
If you're Instagram friends with me, you may have seen a video that I posted.
Oh, I did.
And I intentionally put some filters and stuff on that. But when you're teleconferencing with some friends or coworkers or your boss, you don't want weird filters or fish swimming in the back or anything like that. You want to look nice and professional, especially if it's like a client that you're talking to.
Yes.
So what are some things that we can do to make ourselves look better when we are doing the whole video conferencing thing? So I found an article over on Fast Company, and this dates way back to 2012. And I know there's probably newer articles, but we haven't talked about Fast Company for a while. So we'll go ahead and plug those guys. There's just a few simple things that we can do, and I'll run through those. And then Nate, you work with clients all the time over video chat, and so maybe you could give us a few tips as well. But the first thing, this is true when you're taking selfies. A lot of the selfie generation will know this, is the camera needs to be at eye level or a little bit above eye level so that you're looking up to the camera and not down. The thing that happens when you place the camera lower than your eyes is you get this nice chin view. And you maybe sometimes you have a double chin.
Yes.
And then it all squishes down and shadows, or it's a very unflattering look. And so raise that camera up to eye level or above is one great way to look better. The other thing is lighting. Oh, lighting is so huge.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here in my studio, quote marks, aka garage. And I put up a couple lights, and I've ordered a couple more too because I'm a light enthusiast. Don't get my family started on that one. But there are just a few simple things you can do. Nate, you have this kind of, it's a panel light. It's an LED panel that you have sitting on your desk that's shining on your face to kind of illuminate the front of your body so that when the webcam is shown on you, you're brightly lit, it can find you well, the background is differentiated. But you don't have to have a fancy panel light. I've got this little IKEA click on and off light that works just fine. I've got a piece of paper hanging in front of it to kind of help diffuse the light a little bit. It doesn't have to be fancy. It could be a piece of cloth. It could be some vellum or some tissue paper. But lighting's important. And you don't want the dreaded backlight. The backlight is where the prominent light source is behind you.
Yes.
If you do that, that's all the camera's going to see. You're going to look like a silhouette in front of it. Your camera's going to have to crank up the gain just to see you, and then the quality of the image is going to go down. So you want to make sure that the light source is in front of you. And the last thing this article mentions, and I'm not sure this is absolutely necessary, but if you wanted to spend a little bit of money, it says go external, not internal. And in 2012, when this article was written, this was especially true. Yeah. Webcam quality was terrible. We're talking just awful. Now, many of the webcams have improved, and famously, Apple's built-in webcams on their computers are not that great. I mean, I love Apple, but their webcams are just kind of subpar. They get the job done, but they're not great. Logitech, and you can't find them now because everybody's buying them, makes a couple of really good, affordable webcams. And you can spend from $30 to $350 on these things, depending on the quality that you want. But for around, I think in the $50 to $60 range, you can get a really good webcam that's going to make you look so much better. Now, if you don't have that, there are other alternatives. Sometimes you can hook your digital camera into it, like your point and shoot. Sometimes if you have a video camera, you can use that as well. Sometimes that requires additional equipment to connect it to your computer, so it may not be for everybody. But if you can improve the quality of your camera, obviously the quality of the image going through to the other side is going to improve as well. So what are some other tips, Nate, that you might have to make yourself look better on camera?
Yes, and I'm looking at Amazon here, and there is nothing available. So point number 3 is not applicable at this point. And if you do have a computer from the last couple of years, it's probably good enough, unless you're hosting a meeting for 1 million people. But one thing we're seeing everywhere is low quality stuff. A couple tips that I will say is, look at what's in the background. Make sure that, you don't have something that could be distracting. Kind of frame the shot a little. It's much like taking selfies. It's basically the same with the lighting. Make sure the lighting's right. Make sure you're framed in there. Make sure you don't have, laundry all over the room. Take a couple seconds to make it look nice. Make sure you don't have, just frame it a little bit, maybe get some curtains behind you or a wall with a little bit of art. People are being very forgiving right now because everybody's doing this and trying to figure it out. Another thought that I had was just noise. Try to eliminate background noise. And if you're in at your kitchen table where there's a lot of echo, try to at least put some pillows up kind of maybe around your laptop or something so that it can absorb some of that sound. Makes a lot of difference. So there's a lot of things you can do, but just take a little time. It's just like with anything. If you were taking a picture that you were going to share on Facebook, hopefully you think for a minute before you share that. Do the same for web conferencing, because we're all doing it right now, and just a minute can really help improve things. But yeah, I really like the light and trying to get it up a little bit. Sometimes that's hard with a laptop, so maybe prop it up a little bit just so that you get a little bit better angle. And another thing, don't be too close or too far away. I've seen people where I don't know how they're doing it, but it looks like they're about 10 feet away from the camera. So all you're seeing is the room, or some people that are eating the camera, which is also not necessarily, you want to be, your shoulders maybe take up about, 50% of the width, and then have a little space there so it doesn't feel too crammed.
Yeah, kind of like a portrait shot from let's say the middle of your stomach to the top of your head in the frame would be great. One thing I will mention is my preferred method, and we couldn't use it for this podcast because of the way we have the audio set up, but my preferred method right now is I have a little flexible tripod, and I have a phone little holster where you can put your phone on a tripod, and I have that to the side of my computer, and I will just connect my Bluetooth headset to my phone, and I'll use the very capable front camera of my iPhone to do a Zoom meeting or a Hangout, because the quality of that camera is at least 5 times better than the built-in camera on my iMac. And when I have the Bluetooth audio connected to it, you can hear me great, and I can hear the person on the other end great. And it is amazing the difference in quality of just using that piece of equipment with a good camera and with a wireless headset. The quality of my conferences goes way up. And then, like I said, today we're using some wired headsets, and I couldn't use that with my phone. And so it's trickled down. My video is not as good because of that. So look for other devices you might have in your house, an iPad, an iPhone. Doesn't have to be Apple products. It can be Android or whatever that might have better equipment than your computer at home.
Yes. One last tip I will strongly suggest, especially if it is an important meeting or a meeting with a lot of people, test ahead of time. Don't waste people's time with trying to fiddle around with things and get things figured out. Try to test it ahead of time if you can. Join early, make sure things are looking right, get situated so that you're not wasting other people's time in these meetings, much like you try not to waste people's time in a in-person meeting. So
well, most of you.
Yes.
Most of you. Yeah.
Well, true. Okay, on to our takes of the week. Instagram has introduced a new feature. I have not tried this out. Maybe we should try it later, Dave. Instagram has introduced co-watching.
I don't even know where to start on this. What is co-watching? on Instagram. I know what it is on Netflix, where if I want to watch a
Yes.
movie with something.
It is very much the same thing where you can look through posts together in a video chat. So you would have a video chat, and then much like sharing your computer screen or anything else, you can look through other stuff on Instagram. Now, I would love to know the numbers on this. I'm sure people are trying it out, but what the long-term viability of or necessity for something like this is. But if you are doing a video chat and you wanted to look at something on Instagram, now you can co-watch that with the other people in your video chat.
Wow, I see absolutely no point to this at all. I think this is going to be a feature that's going to go away very quickly, but we shall see. We shall see.
Something to keep people occupied for 10 minutes during this time. We mentioned it last week, but Apple released the new versions of their OSs, the new iOS 13.4 and what Mac OS and everything.
Who knows?
Yes, so many things. So one of the big things with iPad OS 13.4 is the mouse and trackpad support that we talked about, the new Magic Keyboard coming for the new iPad Pro. But I tried it out with my iPad Pro and my little Bluetooth mouse. It's nice. I don't really need it for anything, but for people that are used to using keyboards with their iPads, like you, Dave,
right?
The mouse support or trackpad support is a nice feature. I've heard pretty good things about it. Of course, tech people are always going to find something to rip apart, but
of course.
One of the other things is, we've talked about this a while back when somebody figured it out, is the universal app purchase option, where you can now apps that are available in both the iOS store and the Mac OS store, you can pay one price for multi-platform. So that is a very nice option as that continues to roll out. There's some more features, but nothing too major. There's some new messages, Memoji stickers.
Oh boy.
Yes. Just
we needed those.
But yeah, get your stuff updated. I'm sure there's some security fixes and more in there.
One of the frustrating things was I brought home my first generation Apple trackpad to use with my iPad to test out the new features for the mouse support there. And scrolling is not supported on first generation Apple touchpads. You have to have a second generation one. It works on third party devices. You plug a mouse in or whatever. But if you have a first party Apple Magic Mouse or Magic Trackpad, you can only move the pointer around. The scrolling doesn't work. What is up with that? It's crazy.
Weird. Hopefully they'll maybe push out an update for that at some point.
So be wary if you think you're just going to hook it up and make it go. There are a few little caveats.
Yes. My next take, we probably could have talked about this with the other follow-up of coronavirus-related changes, but their PodTrack, which does podcast tracking, said that podcast listening has actually been down over the last few weeks, and they stated that most people will listen to podcasts during commutes or alone time, and a lot of people aren't getting as much alone time. I think I'm probably listening to more podcasts right now just with some of my free time, but maybe people are focusing more on TV, video, streaming stuff instead of podcasts.
Well, unfortunately, my podcast pile is growing larger and larger because I am one of these people who listen to podcasts on the way to work, on the way home from work, if I'm going to run an errand or whatever. Now I'm in home with my kids and my wife. I'm not commuting. I'm around them all the time. And so I'm one of these people who the podcast has just dipped down because it seems so rude. You're in the house with your family and they're like, well, what are you doing over there in the corner? Well, I'm listening to a podcast. Well, why aren't you talking to us? And it's like, and if you try to go somewhere else in the house, people find you. It's like, what are you doing in here by yourself? I'm trying to listen to a podcast. Yes. It's just a weird environment if you're not by yourself.
Yes, that is very true. There was, they broke it down by category some. And one of the interesting things I thought that true crime podcasts the audience has fallen by almost 30% since early March. And now I think this is funny because true crime podcasts, it's, you got the mystery and everything. Well, life is kind of a mystery right now. So I'm thinking maybe people don't need true crime as much because all of life is something that we're trying to figure out. But true. that was the hardest hit sector, was the true crime podcasts. But maybe that's because it is predominantly women that listen to those, and now their children are home all day, so they're having to interact with their children, much like you mentioned.
Yes.
But yeah, just some interesting data there. And more COVID-19, we just can't escape it. I listened to the This Week in Tech podcast, and out of the 2-hour podcast yesterday, it was probably about an hour and a half of not even tech-related coronavirus talk, but Apple, did you get this? Apple released a new app, a COVID-19 app and website. I did download it. It will ask you some questions to see if they recommend you getting tested.
Tested? What's that? There are no tests available.
No, yes. They will give you suggestions on whether your symptoms, which I have no symptoms and no cause to think that I would need to get tested at all, but it's a nice little app. Looks great with some resources there, so you can get that. And if you do think that maybe you want to see if maybe you should talk to a medical professional, it might be a good first step. And
I'll save you a click. The website and the app are identical. So if you go to the website, you don't have to download the app. But if you prefer to do it that way, it's fine. I was hoping that the app would be different than the website, but it's basically just the website in app form.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
And this last one hits me personally. Well, hopefully by the time it happens, I will be doing this again. Spotify is shutting down DJ app integration July 1st. So DJ Pro, previous pick of the week, the app that I use to DJ, often has Spotify integration, which is amazing. I can, if I'm doing a wedding, the couple can send me a Spotify playlist. I can just add that in there and see everything. I can find any song instead of just the massive library I have personally. So it's a little bit frustrating. There was rumors of this. I was like, there's no way this is going to happen, but it sounds like it's happening from Spotify's side. I don't know why they are doing that, but my app does have Tidal, so I might subscribe to Tidal to check that out. But I'm a little frustrated with this one. It's these, like Twitter that shut down all these third-party access things, and these companies, you wonder why they make these decisions. And DJ, which is made by Algorithm, they've been on the stage for some Apple keynotes and things, and they don't have Apple Music.
Okay, I was just going to ask if Apple Music was integrated.
Yeah, so I think our DJ audience is pretty low, but I'm frustrated by that one, so I wanted to bring it up.
Well, it's things like this that cause music piracy. So let's say, for example, now you're an above board gentleman of the internet, but let's say you wanted to be a DJ, and you're like, well, I don't have access to the Spotify thing anymore to play my music, so I'm just going to go download every album of every local and national artist, international artist that I can find, and play the music just off my hard drive. So it seems like an opportunity when you don't give people what they need or want for piracy.
Yes.
So I'm just going to lay that out there.
Yeah, and one last take. I'm calling this one not news because I do not recommend anybody get it, but Google Podcasts has come to iOS, and I would actually recommend, if you see somebody talking about this, don't go download it. The Apple Podcast app is a million times better. The Pocket Cast or Downcast, any of the other third-party apps, as far as I know, with Google Podcasts, you can't even download episodes. It only streams them. I only bring this article up to say don't even give it a shot. The only reason I could see maybe is if you are on an Android device and an iOS device, but even then, Pocket Cast is cross-platform. So do not get Google Podcast app.
Do you think it'll get any better, or is it just Google's low effort?
It's been on Android for quite a while, and the Libsyn podcast, who hosts our podcast, they have a podcast. That's Meta, if it ever but they talk about the stats of the different players. And of course, Apple Podcasts is like 60%. The Google Podcasts, which is the main podcast player for Android, kind of the default one, if you will. It used to be Google Music, but as Google does, they switch things around a lot. It's like maybe 1 or 2% of all listening. So I don't know why they even made this for iOS or why anybody would use it, but they did.
My guess is they started developing this app a long time ago and just haven't put any effort into it, and then it was finally done, and so they released it. I doubt it's something that they said, oh, hey, let's develop this because there's a huge need or people want this. It was probably something that they've been working on a really long time, and it's just finally done.
Yeah, that is a good point there. Our security and privacy story of the week, I did have one. There's a bunch of Google Play apps on Android aimed at children, so children's games and different things, found to contain a ad fraud malware. So this isn't, we've talked about these type of malwares before. It's not necessarily detrimental to you, but it has these little back-end things where they're clicking on ads in the app, so they make more money off of these ads. And I was reading through, and it uses some of the motion stuff that they can tie in, so then it fakes like it's clicking ads again, so they can make money off of it. But more of the point, it's not necessarily a danger to you, but man, Android apps, I really have a hard time recommending, especially for your kids. If this kind of thing can get through, there's other things that can get through. And Google Play they have gotten tons better, but they seem to still be quite a ways behind iOS as far as making sure this kind of stuff doesn't get into your apps, especially because it is very hard to keep Android updated on most devices. Our bonus odd take of the week is an Instagram account that I found.
Hey, Baylor?
Yes, Davey B. Or Sir Davey B, whatever your Instagram is, we can. Yeah,
I changed it. I changed it to David.Baylor because I thought Sir Davey B was. Oh, nobody knows what that is.
So. Yes,
but I think I have like 5 followers. So
oh wow, geez, you're growing.
You and Chelsea and my mom.
Yes. What more do you need? This Instagram account that I was going to bring up is actually, it is accidentally Wes Anderson. Now, Wes Anderson makes films, and they have a very unique style and just great, back to kind of the webcam pro tip of the week, amazing framing, just these cool things. And so what people do is they could submit pictures of things that look like they could be out of a Wes Anderson film. And it is just a really pleasant little Instagram account that if you need to see some great, since you can't get out and about as much, you can look through this and just see some great photos of, old hotels and different scenes that look like they would come straight out of a Wes Anderson film, which I like.
Yeah. I just subscribed, followed, whatever I do on Instagram of this thing, and we shall see. Yeah. Also, full disclosure, that video that I posted, one person was confused and said, "You have an amazing voice." It is actually a cover. I don't know if you knew this, Nate, that I was not singing that.
I had an idea. I get to hear your voice a lot.
Yeah.
Too much, some may say, but I did not think that was without some extreme auto-tuning that was your own voice.
Right. So I just, for those of you who will look me up and watch, the video that I did post is a cover of Puddles the Clown, and I should make him a pick of my week next week. I'll give you some links, but Puddle the Clown is an amazing person. He did a cover of this song, and I did a lip sync of the cover of this song with a bunch of retro filters.
You should go check that out. I will link to that in the show notes as well, or look him up on the Instagrams.
Yeah, David.Baylor, Baehler.
Yes. And you know what else you should always look up? Our picks of the week.
So you guys probably remember back on episode 117 titled 970 Apps on the Wall.
Yes,
Yeah,
one
everyone?
we mentioned last week with our app counts from a couple
Yes.
years ago.
Yeah, so that's a very popular episode. I recommend going back and listening to it in its entirety. No,
Oh,
it's
yes.
probably terrible. I wouldn't recommend that. But anyway, I recommended, and I have it sitting right here on my table right here, an Anchor 5-watt inductive charger stand. You just
Oh,
hear
yes.
show you a picture, or I'll show you the actual unit. It's this little
Oh,
charging
yeah.
stand.
I've seen that
And
around.
it's a little cradle. You put your phone on and it charges. It works on iOS, Android, any phone that has an inductive charging unit in the back of it. Well, I wanted to order a second one of these because I have an office at home and an office at work, and I'm starting to notice now that I work at home more that my phone is not as charged as it normally is. I'm like, oh yeah, at work I have this cradle. So I brought it home, but I ordered a second one for when this crazy thing is over.
Yes.
I did make one fatal mistake. I didn't do as much research as I should have because there is an updated version for a mere $8 more that takes it from a 5-watt charging unit to a 7.5-watt charging unit, and the design is slightly different. So it's going to arrive today, my second copy of this charger. I'm going to send it back, and I'm going to order the updated copy.
Oh, wow.
And the updated copy is $29.99, and it's titled Anchor Wireless Charger PowerWave 7.5 Stand, Qi certified, etc., etc., etc. But even though it's not in my hands, I'm going to make my pick of the week the new updated version with the 7.5-watt charger because it'll do fast charging on some phones. And I'm looking forward to my phone charging even faster. And this particular one comes in both black and white, too.
Nice. Yeah, and that is a great reminder that most phones these days have faster charging built in, even with the wireless charging. So don't just use the old default ones or some crappy little low wattage charger, because it's very reasonable to get an updated one. I like it. Well, my pick of the week is I have my new beautiful 16-inch MacBook Pro, which is super powerful. It has, and many newer laptops, Mac laptops, have the turbo boost built in where the processor will kind of work even harder to do certain things. Well, 95% of the time, I do not need turbo boost on my computer. And when that CPU is working harder, that also means the fans are probably going to spin up. So
and the battery life goes down.
Yes, the battery life goes down. That is another great point. So I found via, I believe, Marco Arment, who we've mentioned before, who's a big celebrity in the Apple tech space, tech pundit space, but it is called Turbo Boost Switcher for OS 10, which
what does it do?
You're going to be amazed. It puts a little thing up in your menu bar, and you can enable or disable Turbo Boost. And it gives you some little statistics there and how much you're using. So it's a great little thing. I actually paid the $10 for the Pro version, but there is a free version as well. And it has been very nice. I just keep my Turbo Boost off most of the time, and my fans don't spin up as much. So it's a nice little feature, especially when you're recording a podcast, to be able to keep your fans from spinning up, or when you're on a web meeting, you can keep your computer quieter, keep your room quieter. And for most people, most of the time, you don't need the turbo boost. And then when you go to do some video editing or something, you can turn it back on. So there is a free version, and then I purchased the Pro for $10, and it is well worth it. So a very simple little utility for those of you that own an Apple computer.
Sounds amazing.
Yes. You know what else is amazing? Our Ramazon purchase of the week. We love it when you guys shop through our Amazon affiliate links. One, because we get a little kickback. Two, because I get to go look at the anonymous reports of what people have purchased and find interesting things. And Dave, I don't know if this is you, might be, but we have the Sumini electronic rat trap mouse, rats, and mice catcher, 7,000 volts clean and humane control traps to kill rats, mice, uses mains adapter or battery upgrade.
Hold up. How is this a humane thing that kills the rat? Usually the humane ones catch them and you release them.
Well, I think it's humane because they do not suffer.
So does this electrocute the little guy?
7,000 volts, I would think it does.
And you have to put a battery in it? What kind of batteries are you using? Nuclear batteries?
It has a power adapter or a battery. I can look through here the description to see. So I'm guessing this wasn't you. I thought maybe it was working in your garage, that you had some new friends. But
I am mouse free.
We're looking for more social interactions. So
if I have a mice or rat problem, BB guns are my solution.
There you go. Batteries, I'm looking through here. I might not be able to get the details for you on the batteries. Okay, Dave, I've sent you a picture of this, and it does say on the picture too, quick and humane, 7,000 volt electric shock. So it's a little black rectangle or cube, elongated cube, where they crawl in there, and according to the picture, then they take a little nap in there. So Dave, what would you pay?
A forever nap, as we say.
Yes.
Go to sleep forever. Man, this is really interesting. I've never seen anything like this in my life. But I kind of feel like if my Qi charger for my phone, which has inductive charging and plugs into the wall, and it's kind of black and it's rectangular shape. So if that's $29.99, this thing's got to be $29.99. I mean, they're virtually the same thing. One kills a mouse and the other one charges your phone. So I'm just going to go with $29.99 because I have no concept of what these things cost.
Well, you're pretty close for something completely out of your realm. This comes in at $35.99. So $35.99 on Amazon Prime. It only has 3.5 stars on 80 ratings. So if this was you that purchased this, let us know. Let us know how it works, and that you might be able to help somebody else out that has a rodent issue around their house.
You guys got to take a look at this picture.
Yeah,
it's this little box with the lid off, and there's just a nice little, I don't even know if that's a mouse. Kind of looks like
it looks radish with that long tail.
Well, I'm thinking like a gerbil or something. But anyway, it's just kind of laying in there like it's taking a little nap. But I'm intrigued to see how this works. It must put its front paws on a pad, and then its back paws are on the back pad, and it completes the circuit, and it just fries the little dude.
Oh, wow. Well, I think it is time to complete the circuit on this episode. Thank you so much for listening. Share it with a friend. You can't hang out with them, but you can sure tell them about a great podcast to listen to. And remember, this too shall pass, so stay home and tech better. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Notnerd podcast. I am Nate Heath. I gotta stop it. I'm hearing myself twice. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Notnerd podcast. I'm Nate Heath, and I'm here.
What's going on over there? Nice. That was a good outro.
Thank you.